Good morning. We will wait a little bit for the participant to join us, and soon enough, in 1 or 2 minutes, we will start the presentation. So I repeat it again, but I can already tell you. So this session will be recorded. So if you would like if you don't want to be recorded, then maybe you don't put on your camera, even if it's the moment to do it, and then maybe you just write in the chat the questions that you have. Okay, let's start. So, as I said, this session will be recorded. So if you would like to not be recorded or anything, please don't activate your camera during the webinar. I don't ask question with your voice, maybe just write in the chat. So, Flo and I today, we will talk about the AI personality analysis. We work in Zortify. So Zortify is a company that use AI in many different applications, one being the personality analysis and the psychology in general. So yes, we are two data scientists from Zortify. Flo, maybe you can present yourself a bit.
Yeah, thank you, Alexis. So yes, so hello everybody. I'm Florian. I'm working at Zortify as an AI engineer, and I'm in charge of developing all the models that we have in house regarding personality and other things. And I'm working with Alexis in the same team.
So as Flo said, we work on developing the things in the back. In the end, at Zortify, myself, I'm a PhD in computing, and I have a background also in psychology. And today we would like to discuss the subject of personality analysis. So it's the use case we will use today to discuss in general about AI and psychology. And we will present to you what we do at Zortify throughout the presentation. And then there is a later part at the end in which you can activate your camera and your microphone. And during this session, we will discuss what use case you see about AI and psychology in your area of work. I also have some example to discuss with you about different companies that are using either AI or psychology within their product. So there is three main parts during this presentation. At the end of each part, there is a little round for questions. So feel very free to ask your question in the chat. We have access to it with Flo, and we will answer to your question during this little question session. Voila. So without further ado, let's start. We have this statement up. Will it appear? Doesn't work. Okay. Tack. We have this statement, which is your words reveal your deepest strength and AI is listening to you. What if technology could help you understand yourself better than ever before? So we have three parts, as I already said, and throughout those three parts, we will kind of decompose this statement and explain why we could say that. And the first one being AI is listening to you. And so Flo will explain why we could say that AI is listening to you.
Yes, thank you, Alexis. So first thing, to start this webinar today, I want us to have the same definitions of what is AI, because it's a well-known term that everybody is using, but let's define it so we have the same definition. So here on the slide, you can see this taxonomy, and the first thing we need to define is computer science. What is computer science? Actually, computer science is all about computations, algorithm, data structures, the design of hardware. So you see, it's everything evolving around a computer in general. And so inside this wide group, we can see a smaller group which is called artificial intelligence. And basically inside this group, we can see a bunch of different techniques, architectures, model, etc. And that aim to mimic how humans think, reason, and act. Okay. And inside the AI group, we can see subgroups. Really, there is a lot groups that exist under AI, but today we will focus on one group which is called machine learning. And inside these subgroups of AI, we see all the algorithms and methods that aim to learn from the data. So those models inside machine learning, they are really into these groups because their common function is that they really look for patterns inside the data. That's what we say they are learning from the data. And inside the machine learning group, there is also a lot of different subgroups, but the one on which we will focus today is the deep learning. So deep learnings refer to a specialized branch of ML, of machine learning, that use multi-layers neural network to analyze complex patterns in large data set. And a great examples of deep learning architectures is nowadays the famous generative model like Mistral, OpenAI, and etc. And it's basically a type of AI that create context like text, images, videos, music, etc. And they are based on a deep learning architecture. Another term that I want to introduce today, it's NLP. So NLP stands for Natural Language Processing. And it's a cross-disciplinary field between computer science and linguistics. Basically, it's just a word to describe the fact that we try to give computers the ability to process text as a human would do it. And actually, NLP has evolved significantly over the decades. And we use today computer science, AI, machine learning, or even deep learning technique to accomplish a lot of NLP tasks. An NLP task can be, for example, when you do text classification or text summarization, or even, let's say, sentiment analysis. When given a text, you let an AI decide like the sentiment that is vehiculated into this text, etc. And for example, ChatGPT is a text generation algorithm. So like its role is to given a text, it will give you the most probable answer based on its knowledge that you have seen during training. Okay, now let's go a bit deeper. Now that we know what's NLP, what's AI, I want to ask you, or well, I will tell it actually, what's a neural network? Actually, we all have one neural network here in this presentation. It's actually a brain. All humans have a brain, and it's actually a neural network because it's made of billions of neurons that are all interconnected together. And the role of those neurons is to process information. So right now I'm talking to you and you can hear me. So you see, you are listening to me. So your brain is actually treating some information. Your ears get a signal, and this signal is then processed by your brain within these neurons. And like really often in the history, human took inspiration from nature to solve problem. And this process is called biomimicry. And the artificial neuron is a great example of this. So just like our brain is made of billions of tiny cells called neurons that works together to help us think, feel, see, hear, etc. Artificial neural network are computers-based versions of those brain cells. They don't look the same, but they are inspired by how biological neurons process information and make decisions. So here on the left, you can see a representation on an artificial neural network, which is made of artificial neurons. So don't be scared by those crazy representations, but you will see it's quite easy. Remember, I told you that our brain is, you are right now, you are listening to me. So I'm talking to you, your brain hears this information and you is processing it. And for artificial neural network, it's the same. It's just like you give a network an input. On the left here, on the left side of the slide, you can see input that is given to a neural network, and this input is processed by a neuron. And after the neurons process this information, it share the output to other neurons, etc., and it goes through the network. So here you see, as your brain is listening or processing information, the artificial neural network can do the same. Of course, in our brain, it's work with chemical reactions, but here it's working with numbers. But I will give you a closer example on the next slide so we can do a comparisons of those both, let's say, architecture. So here on the left, we have our biological neuron, and on the right, we have the artificial neuron. So remember, I told you when I'm speaking, your brain receives information, and what's happening in your brain is like each neuron will receive an information through what we call here the transmitter. And also something I forgot to mention is like here the colors are matching. So when I will refer to something on the left here on the biological neuron, you can make connections with the artificial neurons on the right. So let's take our example. I told you when I'm speaking, your brain receives information. And with this information, it's treated internally, and the part of your brain that are responsible for the listening are activated. Okay, and what's happening is each neuron receives an information. He treats them with his receiver, this pink receiver here, and based on the information, the purple thing here that is called the axon will decide or not to send an information to the neighborhood of these neurons. And actually, what happened in the artificial neural network, researchers try to mimic this functioning, but using something a computer can understand. So in our brain, it's chemical reactions that are happening, but for computer, this is not possible. So what they did is like they represent signal. So the input, in our case, it's like electrical signal from your ears to your brain. And here we just say, okay, let's represent that using numbers. And then the processing that happened internally in the biological neuron through chemical reactions, here it has been imitated using mathematical operations. So the neuron process this input using some mathematical operations. It gives you an output, and based on the strength of this output, the neuron sends an information with a certain level, stronger or a bit lower, depending on the processing result, to the neighborhood, to the other neurons. So you see, they are completely different in terms of design, but the functioning, the way they work are quite similar. And just to give you an idea, in our brain, we have around 86 billions of neurons. And nowadays, in the biggest LLM that exists, there is around 671 billions of neurons. Of course, this numbers is not updated. So maybe even today, we can see even a bigger LLM. I think this number was based on the DeepSeek model some months ago. Okay, so now that we know how AI is listening, how we can process, how an artificial neural network can process information, I want now to focus more on the NLP side. So how can we make a AI model understand text? And so it's a two-step process. First, let's take this example where I have a sentence on the left. So describe the role you would like to play in a successful team, and I would like blah 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 an answer. And now I want this text to be understand by my AI or by my model. So the first step is called tokenization. So before a computer can understand the sentence, we need to break it down into smaller pieces called tokens. And think of tokenization as cutting a sentence into small puzzle pieces so a computer can examine each pieces. And why computer and also why we do that is because computer only understand numbers, not words. So we need to break we need to break down this text into these manageable chunks. So this is the first step. We take the sentence and we split it. Then we have a second step, which is called the embedding. So you can think of embedding as giving a meaning to words with numbers. So once we have those small tokens, we convert each word into numbers, so the so-called embedding, but not just random ones. These numbers captures the meaning of the words. To illustrate what I'm saying, I will take an example. Let's take the word pizza, let's say, for example, and we represent this word using 3 numbers. So the first number could represent the fact that it's something delicious. I'm sure everybody likes pizza here. And then the second number could represent the fact that it's food. It's some food. And then the third one could represent the fact that it's something round, you see? And you see how we managed to convert a word into basically a list of numbers where each number anchored some information about, some semantic about this word. So it's like teaching a child to give word to say that words are feelings and context, you see? And that's really important because using this, we are able to represent a sentence. And that's what we have here. That's what we call the sentence embedding. So we have each token or each subword, and attached to this word, we have its representation, its embedding. Okay. Right now, let's just focus more on our project. So until now, we have seen what's AI, what is NLP, and how AI is really listening to what we are saying. So during a personality assessment, respondents answer to 6 questions actually, and we embed this answer to those questions. So this is how AI will listen to what you are saying, what the candidates are saying. We will have 6 times this sentence representation, and we will use this information inside the model to be processed later. So far, do you have any question?
So we have one question.
Yes.
So you transfer the words to way.
Yes, kind of. That's the idea. We convert a word, or well, it's not actually a word, it's called the token. So sometimes it can be only part of the word to be a bit more specific. And this will be, as you said, a list of weights, exactly. Or weight, well, numbers.
And something also that we can precise is that Flo used this example of pizza with 3 dimensions, delicious, circular, and I don't remember the last one. Food. But actually, these dimensions, we cannot name a concept to them. We know that from the training processes, we know that the model learns the semantic of the tokens or words, the meaning of the tokens or words, but we cannot target a specific dimension. Let's say, for example, this dimension, it will measure the fact that it's delicious. It's an example that we use to explain that the meaning and the semantic is included inside the embedding. But in fact, us as humans, if we read this table, it's nonsense. We cannot decode it as human. It's really meant for the AI model to work, not for us. Exactly. Is there any other question? No? Okay. So now that Flo explained why we can say that AI is listening to you, it's mainly because the AI is following the same process as we follow. We are getting a signal and we are activating our brains. Will it be an artificial neural network or a biological neural network? So it's really the same concept. It's AI is listening to you as you are listening to us. Then we can focus on your words reveal your deepest strength. And when you focus on that, we would like to know what is a deepest strength in the end. And in the end, it's linked to your personality. In psychology, and more especially in psychometrics, when you want to assess the personality of someone, you want to guess some information about that personality trait. This personality trait that I describe here are belonging to different theories. So the Big Five or Ocean theory, for example, the dark triad theory, for example, or the psychological capital theory, for example. And when you want to assess, I would say a value, or maybe, yes, a value, it's good, a value on a personality trait, you have to use a tool, an instrument. What we use in psychometric is Likert scaled question. So basically, I ask a question or I have a statement and I ask you to either very disagree to very agree. So it's not either, it's to give an answer in between very agree to very disagree on it. An example could be, I love to go to parties. So then the person has to answer if they very agree with this statement, sorry, or if they just agree, nor disagree or agree, etc., until very disagree. With all of this information and many different items, psychologists are able to give a score on the personality trait. I can describe a bit maybe the three different theories because we will talk also about these theories later. So inside the big five or ocean theory, we have 5 personality traits: the openness to experience, the conscientiousness, the extraversion, and the agreeableness. Those are quite easy to understand. And then we have the neuroticism, which is actually the opposite of the emotional stability. Then we have the dark triad, in which we have narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellism. So these terms are kind of harsh and strong, I would say, but it's subclinical. So it doesn't mean that because you have a score that is high on psychopathies that you are a psychopath. It means that sometimes you think less before doing things that you should. For Machiavellism, it's the same thing. You don't want to do bad to every person. It just means that in some contexts, you will manipulate the situation to your own gain or enjoy the position that you are in, these kind of things. And then there is the psychological capital. So resilience, it's quite easy to understand also. Self-efficacy, it's about the fact that when you do something, it will have an impact. If you feel that, for example, you would be able to fix something, or if I talk to this person, I can change their mind, etc., it means that you have a high self-efficacy score or value. If you feel on the opposite that whatever you would say to this person, it won't matter, or you won't be able to do something, or maybe the thing that you have done before doesn't matter, etc., it means that you have a low self-efficacy. Then optimism, it's quite easy to understand also. And agility mindset, it's a combination of multiple parts of those dimensions, because those dimensions also have facets, which are basically sub-dimensions. And so it's our own in-house construct that we have. It's not the goal of the webinar to describe all of the dimension in depth, but voila. So we can assess the personality using psychometrics and Likert scale question, but we would like to do that using the text. And in 1999, so you will see it's a succession of scientific articles that you don't have to remember or don't have to read. It's just to make you feel the ideas behind what we do. So yes, in 1999, Penbaker and King showed that language use and personality are deeply connected. This is the first proof of the fact that we can use text to predict the personality. And what Penbaker and some colleagues did later on is to develop what they call the linguistic inquiry and word count, LIWC, and use that to extract features from written text or from speech. And this feature would be a linguistic feature like using the first person singular pronoun, psychological concept like anger, achievement, etc., etc. There is also lexical fields, etc., etc. So they developed the solution so they could extract numbers from text, exactly as we described before, turning text into numbers. Then they try to extract numbers from text, so more or over 80 linguistic features. A little later, 10 years later, actually, Hirsch and Peterson used their own their solution that they developed, the LIWC, and tried to link it to the Big Five. And what they've shown is that there is a strong connection in between some features of the LIWC and Big Five, and thus your personality. They did it with Big Five, but actually you could do it with other personality traits from other theory, and you will get similar results. So it really shows that when you are able to extract features, number, information from a text, you are able to say something about the personality of someone. What it means for our product, it means that now that AI is able to listen, we know that what AI is listening to contains information about the personality, about the big five, about the dark triad, about the psychological capital. So it means that we should be able to use AI then to predict the personality. Is there any question on this part? No one is typing? Okay, then maybe we move to the next part. Flo?
Yes, thank you, Alexis. So let's get back to our two statements. So we have seen that words reveal your deepest strengths and AI is listening to you. But now we will focus on the second statement. What if technology could help you understand yourself than ever before? And actually, an article published this year reinforced our belief that we were right since the beginning to use deep learning model to predict personality. Because remember, I think you told this at the beginning of the presentation, Alexi, Sortify is a company that exists since 2019. Yeah. And so we were there really before ChatGPT and all those big LLM, and we were already using kind of embeddings, so the thing we just discussed before, to represent text. And a proof of that is that an article from Marjan and Al published in 2025, they basically they say that they try to add linguistic feature. Well, they compared the linguistic features that what Alexi just described before with LLM embedding, and they run an experiment where they encode text using feature extracting from the LYWC plus an LLM embedding and an LLM embedding alone. And what they have demonstrated is like LLMs embedding inherently capture all the key linguistic features that are meaningful or relevant to predict personality, which in conclusions means that LLMs embedding are sufficient and or even more powerful to predict personality, which is a really good signal. It means like or LLM embedding in general are getting more and more efficient at a crazy speed because we see improvements of model every month or every 2 months even. So we know that we will only get better at predicting personality using them. So it's a really, really powerful signal that we have seen inside this article. Now let's just go back to our sentence embedding. So what you see here, the sentence is embedded. It's what I just described before. It's what we have inside as input inside the LLM. So this is what the LLM is paying attention when this matrix goes inside the neural network. So in our assessment, so what if technology could help you understand yourself than ever before? That's the statement. And once in, for example, the Certify assessment, when you answer to this 6 open text question, we will have 6 times the representations of this answer. And this representation is this LLM embedding that I just mentioned before. So inside this embedding, we know that we have the right information to predict the personality. And then this representation, so these 6 representations goes through our own models, so our own artificial neural network, and it will produce an output. In our case, in the select assessment, for example, given these 6 inputs, we are able to produce 12 score, which represent the score on the 12 dimensions that we are measuring. Here, I didn't put all the dimensions, but it just because it was too complicated to fit everything on the slide. But the idea is like, given this 6 answer, we are able to produce 12 scores on each of the psychological dimensions we want to measure. That's actually what Alexi presented before. So yes. So let's summarize everything we have seen so far. So now, as I said, we know that AI is listening to us using this concept of sentence embedding. Alexi explained us that inside this sentence embedding, we know that we have the informations that we want that we need to predict a score. So your words really reveal who you are. And finally, what we have just seen now is like our NLP model extract the information about the personality. This is the role of this block here. The artificial neural network, its job basically is given this crazy amount of information, it needs to kind of sort out what is useful, what is not, to predict the score. And that's what we produce at the end. Do you have any question now on this aspect?
So waiting for question, maybe a little comment. So today we really focus on what we have done. Actually, we are over with what we have done precisely, and we will discuss a more general context. But you have to understand that what we use as a method to predict the personality is actually a method that is used for many different things.
Yeah.
For translation, it's really similar. For summarization, it's really similar. And so it means that AI can be applied in many different domains.
True.
Us, what we wanted to show you is that there is a theory that says that we can predict the personality from the text. It's not only that we tried and it works, it's also a theory from the science that says that it's possible. So actually, if you use all the building blocks, the last proof is from 2025, so it's quite a young proof. But it really shows that it's not just you apply AI to everything and it works. It's like there is a science that is built that shows that things are more and more possible with AI.
Yeah, and we will also maybe talk about this later, but you will see that also data is super important when we talk about AI.
Okay, so still no question. So then there is the question of why use AI? It works, but why don't use maybe people to assess the personality, etc., etc. So in case of psychology, and maybe more especially in the personality analysis, but it applies to many cases in psychology, you want to reduce the bias. We are human, we are biased. We have our experiences, our beliefs, etc., that change the way we will perceive the world in comparison to our colleagues, etc. So when you use AI, it's based on data. So it's data ground, and it's better to have data to discuss together than just have gut feelings and discuss about our gut feelings. So this would be the first thing. Of course, when we discuss about bias, we should also discuss about the data, because it's the data that the model is trained on. So if the data is biased, then the model will be biased. And there is many cases, and we quite often hear the example in this kind of presentation that we do, of companies that had the data sets that were biased, for example, Amazon in hiring certain people for certain position, and they use this data set to train their model, and then their model were biased. I think that we have a question, maybe I can quickly answer to it. What does the level of proficiency in English language, assuming that the person mother tongue, impacts the accuracy of the analysis? So that is a good question. So in the product that we sell, we advise on using either German, English, and French, because those are the languages that we have in our training data. So it's exactly the comment I just made. You should make sure that the context in which you will use your model in the end, so for us it's the personality analysis model, is the context on which you have data from. So for us it's the French, German, and English speaking market. That said, the current method that we use as an embedding. So Flo described the LLM embedding, etc. So we use LLM embedders that is multilingual. So this model that we currently use was specifically trained to be multilingual. What does it mean? It means that it will represent the token I in English, the token ich in German, and the token je in French, really close to each other in the representation space, which means they will have the same value on this list that represents the words. So if you are not proficient in English, it's probably better to answer in the language you are the more proficient in. We advise German, English, or French, but it has happened that Turkish people answered in their language, and that the LLM was able to process their answers. It's, I would say, extra safety for us to say that you should answer in either English, German, or French, because we want to be, I would say, as ethical towards what we do as possible. But we know that the LLM that we use is able to process different languages anyway. I hope this answers the question. Also, a comment I can make. The way you express yourself reveal your personality, and you express yourself differently in different languages. And so you can quickly know that the personality you are showing to people is different depending on the language you use. I'm a different person in English than I am in French, and I don't speak German that well. So it's another question. So what does it mean? It means also that it's probably better for a person to answer to the personality assessment in the language they will use in their working place. So even though their English might be a little less good than their French, they should probably do the assessment in English, because the personality that they're showing their colleague and working with is, I would say, a kind of English personality. The differences in between the personalities that you show are not tremendously big differences. It's slight differences, but still, when you're in a context on which you want to compare multiple persons together, maybe these slight differences might have an impact on the way you will interpret the results. Is there already data on the impact of your tool on successful personnel selection, ESG, quality of hire, length of service in the company? Okay, so we have a testimony from their clients. So they said that it works. Us, we don't collect data on that, for the simple reason that the fact that it works in a specific context doesn't mean that it will work on another context. And if one day we would include this data from specific clients to maybe train our model, or to maybe give a confidence score that this person will be a good fit for a position, then we will bias our data towards this specific context from which we collect data. So if we have two clients for which it works and we use this data, then we will kind of bias our model towards their context. So we have testimony, but we don't collect data, and we don't plan on collecting data on that, and we don't plan on using the data to also change the way our model works. And it's mainly a reason that we want our model to be as general as possible on the first ground, and then built on some advice depending on the position, etc. But do not, I would say, include data from a context on which we are unsure of what they will do to our data, to our model. I hope this answer also the question. Harder to cheat. So I'm going back to the reason why to use AI. So in psychology, it's harder to cheat when you use AI. What does it mean? As I said before, when we want to assess the personality, we are using psychometrics. And psychometrics, it's item like I love to go to parties. But when I told you I love to go to parties, I think it was quite obvious for you that this kind of item will assess the extraversion. And so it's a problem, because when the items are too transparent, then it's easier to cheat. And so people will try to show themselves in a specific way, maybe. We can avoid that with the open text question, because maybe the fact that you are extroverted, it's not something that extroverted say. Maybe extroverted people, they act in the same way, but don't state I am extroverted, etc. So actually, it's difficult to trick, and also there are things that has no causality effect but correlation effect. Let me explain. So the fact that you love to go to parties, it's the consequence of being extroverted. That's quite easy to understand. But maybe there is correlation that exists that are neither a cause or consequence, that have neither a cause or consequence relationship with extroversion. I will say a random thing, but let's suppose that it exists a correlation in between liking dogs and being extroverted. Actually, I don't know, and we don't analyze the data to find such a thing, but it could be the case. So there is no cause and consequence thing, but if there is a correlation, it would mean that the LLM could use this information to say that the person is extroverted. But that, as human, we wouldn't know, and so it would be really hard for us to trick the model into inputting this information, because it's not common sense, or it's not logical for us to guess this relationship. Of course, the scalability. Scalability is the main reason why people will go for what we do, because in the end, they want to be fast, they want to be cost effective, and it's exactly what AI can provide. If you add to measure the personality of 10 person using a psychologist, it will be a long and costful process. with our assessment, you already use the psychometric part in it, so it's already included, plus the AI part, so really it's faster and better in the end. And the two later points, it's really to make you feel this thing about technology could help you understand yourself than ever before. And it's the than ever before that I want to discuss about in the two last points. It's still research area things, the dynamic adaptation and the behavioral analysis, but it just shows how we can get better and better and better at predicting the personality using AI. So the dynamic adaptation. AI adjusts questions in real time based on responses. It's what a psychologist will do. If he doesn't have the psychometric questionnaire, he will ask a question, and once he has enough information on something, he will ask a question on something else. It's exactly what we would like to do in Zortify, and we are currently working to develop this thing with Flow. We would like in the future to ask a question depending on the information we already got from someone. So if we are feeling, for example, confident enough on extraversion, then we move on to something else. In the psychometric test story, there is 12 questions on extraversion. It's fixed. We ask the 12. Maybe after 4 or 5, you are already confident enough, and maybe you can move on. So it's something we would like to develop and to input in our product in the future. Also, there is the behavioral analysis, maybe the thing that is the most difficult to trick in the end, because even open text question, at some point you can say, well, my concerns that I will maybe show myself like that, etc. For the behavioral analysis, it's totally different. Behavioral analysis, it's the click, the reaction time within the tool, how much you type a word and remove a word and type again and remove again, etc. So it's everything that you do while doing the personality assessment. In the future, we'd like to use this information also to predict the personality. And as you can imagine, it's really difficult to guess what kind of behavior you should show. It's even difficult to reproduce non-natural behavior while doing the assessment. And this would be, yes, a really a step ahead from everything that is done, even if already NLP is a step ahead in comparison to everything that is done. Okay. Again, on the better than ever before. AI already surpassed human in many, many domains. And it's also the case for a personality analysis, and we will only get better. But I want to give you some example on which AI already surpassed humans. So radiology, with radiologists, so they analyzed breast cancer mammogram, so mammogram to find breast cancer, sorry, and it has been shown that AI was better, around 6% less false positive and 10% less false negative than radiologists, which is not negligible. It doesn't mean that AI replace radiologists, but as of today, radiologists quite often use AI tool to confirm or on difficult case to have more information about if or not it's breast cancer that is shown on the mammogram. Then there is things that are maybe ethical concerning, like AI versus workers. So Foxconn, who is a factory for iPhone, had 110 workers, and they reduced it to 50,000 workers, or 110,000 workers, sorry, to 50,000 workers by replacing 60,000 of them by AI-driven robots. So there is a real question also about what we should do as a society, etc. But it's just the reality. AI can replace workers in factories. The example of AlphaGo, also this game on which AI surpassed human, it was already the case for chess before, and it's actually the case for every game that you can imagine. There is still some few video games on which AI is not better than human, but it's just a matter of time, of data collected. But AI will surpass any humans in any games in the future. Yes, a domain that is close to Luxembourgish market, I would say the hedge fund manager. So AI is already also better at managing hedge funds than humans, about a 6% approximately higher net annual revenue. I'm not an expert on finance at all, so it was due to superior stock selection, lower turnover. I don't even really know what it means concretely. But what it shows is that even on those things that we feel it's clearly human things and you have to be really smart, no, AI is already doing better. and even more on science subjects. So AI is better at than scientists on some subjects. So it's, for example, summarization, contradiction detection, information retrieval in scientific article, Wikipedia article writing, etc., etc. All of those things shows that AI will surpass humans in everything, but I have a little example. For translation, it's not the case. It's not the case yet on some specific domain or when you compare AI performances to expert translator or senior translator person, sorry. So it's really a matter of time maybe, but there is still area on which AI should improve and will improve, but it's just a matter of time. Okay, so it's really to show you that as of today, AI in psychology is already great, but it will become better and better. Any question on this part? So maybe while while you are typing, the later part of the presentation is about discussing the different use case that you have in your work area, or how you would imagine using AI in psychology in your work area. So it's really an interactive. So you are really welcome to open again your camera and your microphone if you would like to talk and ask a question. As I said at the beginning of the presentation, this session is recorded. So if you prefer to not appear on the recording or your voice, you can just type your question in the chat and we will answer to this question. We have prepared anyway some other example of the application of psychology in tech or in the world, or how AI can be used in psychology. But if you have examples yourself, it's probably better to start with those. Or maybe I start with an example and see if we have one other. So what we do is personality analysis in the hiring context, and the goal in the end for a recruiter is to reduce the amount of mishire. I don't know about the numbers that we have. Yeah, no, it's I don't know about the numbers, so I won't say them, but it's the goal. The goal is to reduce the amount of mishire. But you could imagine using the personality analysis and AI in many different contexts. So for this context, I won't tell you how it can be used or if it should be used or what we should do with that, but still it's an information that we can get from psychology. So here on dating apps, so Tinder and all of those things alike, there was an analysis that has been done on the on the dark triad to measure the narcissism, the Machiavellism, and the psychopathy of people using those applications. And it was shown that for men using those applications, if they show a high score in psychopathy, they are more likely to have app-based sexual encounter. So as I said, I don't know what to do with that. What I know is that in this dating app, people are writing to each other. It's text. We know that personality is predictable from text. So it means that if they use some methods that we use ourselves, they could assess if a man is likely or not to have app-based sexual encounter. So voilà, it's not that it should be done, but it shows the amount of things you can do with psychology and with AI in many different contexts. Still no question? No, maybe. If you have any remark, not even a question on those things, feel free to share also. And yes, a question. Does Artify also offer the assessment of skill, knowledge, etc. within personnel selection or exclusively personality analysis? That's a really good question. So it's so far exclusively on personality analysis. So we don't focus on the skills, knowledge, etc. We are, I would say, at the end of the process. In the end, when you know that you have some candidates that have the skills, that have the knowledge, that have everything that is required for the position, and you have maybe to choose in between them, then you could use maybe our solution to know which person from this pool of candidates that you have would be the best fit to your team, to your company values, to the manager also. It's really a matter of finding the best person for the position, and not only a person that will have the skills or the knowledge to do the things that should be done. Yes.
You can maybe mention what we want also to achieve in the future, or maybe we have example later. I don't remember.
Yeah, maybe I can the job example.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Then I switch to the job example. So we do not focus on knowledge and skills, but it is real that there is a link in between your personality and the impact that you can have on your job or the way you will feel in your job. So there was this study from researchers that analyzed the different job position of people with their score on the Big Five personality trait. And it's actually data that we would like to use in the future also in our product to advise on which kind of profile you should look for when you want someone for a specific position. And so the findings are really interesting and also for some of them quite obvious. I put some example here. So they've shown that the least extroverted people were actually software developers. And so it means that maybe if you put someone that is really extroverted in a position of the software developer, this person will most likely be among people with low extraversion, etc. So it might not be the environment in which this person will thrive the most. Same thing for the most extroverted. So the position with the most extroverted people was advertising and public relation managers. I will read them all because when you read them, you have a feeling that yes, it might be really true. Most conscientious, so construction worker, finance manager, and health professionals, non-specified, so any health professional. And obviously, health professional are appearing here. It will be really sad and frightening if it would have not been the case. Least neuroticism, so it means the most emotionally stable health service manager, and I guess they can see all kind of situations, so they are, I would say, trained, which is really interesting because Big Five is not a theory that we say you can train. You usually cannot train the personality trait within the Big Five, but when you live 10 years or 20 years doing a job, it changes you for sure. Most agreeable psychologist and the most open-minded visual artist, quite obvious also, and the psychologist, probably for the same reason. They have seen many different situations for people, and so I guess they are quite open-minded on what people could or should do with their life in comparison to other jobs. So again, to complete on what I said before, we do not focus on knowledge and skills, but we will be able, because it's something that we are working on also with Flow, we will be able in the future to advise on what kind of profile would be the best for a position in terms of personality. So this was the second example, and I have a third one also on dating app, and it's to also put a little focus on MBTI. We have a lot of people in recruiting that use the MBTI, and so that's why I feel it's an important example. So it's on dating app using MBTI. So the app is called Boo, and basically what they do is that they map people depending on their MBTI. So if you are, I don't know, a guardian, you will be nice with an artist or whatever, etc., etc. But from the MBTI official supplemental material, so from the creators of the MBTI, it is said that it is not and was never intended to be predictive and should never be used for hiring, screening, or to dictate life decision. And this is really important because you can imagine using tools in psychology or tools in AI or tools that cover both in your line of work, but there is the question of should you do so? And we know that MBTI is used in the recruiting market and is used here in a dating app, but it says that it should not be used for hiring or to dictate life decision. So it's not only a matter of using tools because they are available, it's also about the science behind and if you should do it. And that's why today we really focused on this part, the science behind what we do and the proof that what we do is actually theoretically right. And then we apply everything to make the things the best, the best possible. So yeah, voilà, that was the third example of usage of psychology and or AI in other domains than ours. Is there any other questions that we should answer to? or any remark. It doesn't have to be a question. It can be interrogation statement, remark. Well, I don't think we put our mails in the slides.
No.
Okay. Anyway, if you have any question, you can reach out to the Zartify team, so either to the sales team or us. You can type maybe your mails if you want to flow. We are also reachable by mail, by email. So if you have any question, feel free to send an email to us. To be totally honest, it's always a pleasure to discuss about the science behind what we do. We are quite proud of what we do, so it's always cool. And voila, if nothing more, I will thank you. Yes, that's my mail. I will thank you for participating to this webinar and wish you a good day ahead.
Yes, thank you.
No. Oh, shit. Oh, il est tout.